Hey guys, welcome back to the shack. Tonight I'm going to be doing something that's going to be a little different than the norm. As many of you know, I'm quite experienced with diode lasers and some limited experience with CO2s. But there's another genre of the CNC world that I've been wanting to get into, but I never quite could pull the trigger on it. A small form factor CNC. It's basically the same size as most of the lasers that I'm used to working with. And seeing that I am kind of tasked with not a lot of space left over, I thought this would be a good one for me to get started on and to learn the techniques and all for doing a rotary type CNC. And so here we are. It's here today, guys. I am a total noob at this. I have no experience. I have ran a router before. I have a router table. I have done, free-handed with routers. And I have run laser CNCs. But this is going to be the first time that I've ever had my hands on an actual CNC that uses a mechanical bit. So we're going to start off with the unboxing, getting everything put together, and then I'm going to try my hand at it and see how it works. This may actually take a few videos to get through everything, so we're going to see how long this installation and assembly takes, and then we'll go from there. So first off, this is how everything looks in the boxes. All right, I got this is a 4-axis rotary module for the Genmitsu. And they sent me also, this is the, I guess you would say Z-axis zeroing component. I'm gonna have to learn how to work all this stuff, but I do know that that's what it is. I've been trying to watch a few YouTube videos out there and get some ideas of what I got myself into, but we'll see how well that worked out, guys. Also, I asked for them to send me the adapter for a DeWalt router, so that once I learn how to work this machine, hopefully I'll be able to upgrade it to the DeWalt router and do a little bit faster work, because I do know that the output of this module is not the same as the output of a DeWalt. So I'm not going to bog this video down with all of the, how many amps of power it has and all the technical stuff, guys. I'll put links down below, and if you're interested in learning more about the machine in that aspect of it, you can go research it yourself, and we'll try to touch on some of the features and some of the things as I move through there, but I just don't want to slow us down with all the technicals. So there'll be a link down below where you can go check this thing out, and they'll have the full spreadsheet of everything that you need to know about it. So I'm going to move these things here over to the side, because this is going to be my primary concern, is getting this guy together right now. All right, I've kind of got away from doing unboxings, guys, but with this machine, we're going to walk it all the way through. So I opened it up earlier just to get a look, and guys, like I said, I have been really wanting to get one of these things, but I just never could quite find the right one. And so Genmitsu kind of helped me make my mind up. Got the book here, quite a healthy book. I think I'm probably going to be okay, because like I said, I have been watching some videos, so we'll go ahead and pull all the components out, but we're going to keep that guy close. All right, this is going to be the little box. This box contains all of the parts that will be needed to put it together, as well as the tools. From the videos that I've seen, pretty much everything we're going to need for this entire build should be housed in here, other than, of course, the large parts. So we'll be setting that over here to the side as well. And now we're getting into the actual frame of the machine, as well as some of the components. Of course, you got the power brick, USB cable, and a couple more cables in here. There's going to be, it's got two power cables. I may have missed something. We'll figure that one out in a minute. But the main part of this thing, from what I have read, is mostly put together. This is going to be the factory, the stock motor for it. It does take smaller bits. I got some bits ordered, and like I said, I'm going to be going with a router later. But for now, I'm going to be learning this thing with this stock module and the bits and stuff that comes with it. I will say also they do sell a drop-in laser module for this machine that has air assist capabilities and everything. I don't know that that's going to be a route I'm going to go because I have so many other options, but it might be something fun to play with. So we're going to set this over to the side as well. All right, these are going to be the main. Might stand up to get a little more leverage on this thing. Okay, I recognize these two. These are going to go underneath the wasteboard, and I do know that the wiring here is particular to only one end. I'm going to have to look at the book to make sure. But go ahead and lay those over here out of the way. This is the bulk of the weight right here, guys. These are the axis for the machine, and they are quite heavy. So I'm just going to stand that up and pop this off so I can get them out one at a time. All right. So I do know from my research that this is going to be the left side. That's where the controller sits. So I'm just going to kind of try to sit this one off to the left here. And also, this guy here is going to be the gantry. The gantry, all the connections are up here for the air assist and some of the different attachments. So I do know from my research that that is going to be my gantry there. And then this is going to be the right side axis. And these things are very, very sturdy built. Not what I'm used to with the lasers. So I'm just going to make sure I'm not missing anything, guys. Throwing all this foam over here to the side. I have missed things in boxes before. Oh, I guess I lied. There's a screwdriver that we're going to need to put this together with. So I'm going to lay that over here with my tools. And this is the spoil boards that come with the machine. And you'll notice that it has the threaded pegs in the bottom of the board. That is so you can attach things to the workspace if you don't want to use, you know, the glue method or some of the other methods that are out there. So I'm going to lay this one over here because we're going to have to put all of these parts together to make the machine. And here's another spoil board. So for some reason I was thinking there was supposed to be 3 of these guys. Guess I was mistaken. All right, so here are all of the parts that we're going to be needing. So I'm just going to move this stuff over here, get it a little more in reach. All right, so let's see what kind of book we got here. Let's just follow along to make sure I don't mess anything up. So from what I can tell, I've got all the parts that I will be needing. So we're just going to kind of fold through here and see how it says to go about this. All right, so it's showing here that need some rubber feet. The rear module is going to be the one with the wires, according to the drawing. So that means that this one is going to go to the back. According to the illustrations, it shows these screw holes facing up. Just going to move that one back there. Flip this guy over and put it up here. So, looks like we're going to need some the MDF boards, locating pin, 12 M5 by 20s, and an Allen wrench, which is 4 millimeters. Now I'm going to probably cheat and use my Allen wrench set that I have. So let me grab my laser toolbox, which today is not a laser toolbox. Today it is a CNC toolbox. But we'll get it over here where I can have my tools. So I'm going to need a 4 millimeter. That's a 3. So let me grab a 4 out of here. I really need to get a little more organized with my little bits. Four millimeter. There we are, my handy little DeWalt. All right, so The illustration shows that these guys are going to need to be set on the spoil board first. Now, not real sure. There we go. So I'm going to need 12 of the M5 by 20s, which are going to be these guys. So here's 6 of them. I'm going to go ahead and get these guys started. It says that this only takes 15 minutes, guys, but with me talking to the camera and trying to make sure everything's running, it'll probably take me longer than that. But I don't want to mess it up and have to start over, so we'll just take our time. All right, I went ahead and got all those started before I started tightening up anything. And I'm just going to run these down and get them not tight, but just down below the surface so that they got a few threads holding. And I'll wait and tighten it all up once we get everything together. So I'm just running these down below the surface of the MDF just to get them to where I know I don't have to worry about them breaking any threads off or anything. Going around to the other side here. All right, so I've got to slide this guy over, and like I said, I'm going to start these by hand just to make sure we don't cross thread anything. And then once I get them all started, I'll go back and run them down. All right, so I'm also going to need 8 of the locating pins, and in here are the 8 locating pins. And it's really helpful, guys, that the lid of this box right here, it's not like some of them where once you open the bag, you kind of tear it. It's actually got a label printed for the bag, so that makes locating what part you need pretty handy. I gotta say. All right, so according to the manual, what we're going to want to do now is put these locating pins in and set these side pieces on here. So I'm going to go ahead and pop all those in their respective holes. So there's 8 of them. I had an extra one. All right, and then this will just sit on top of that using those locating pins to make sure everything lines up properly. So once you get it where it's supposed to be, it should just kind of fall in place. It shouldn't be any force required as long as it is sitting where it's supposed to. And that's a pretty cool idea because that gives you one more way of knowing that it's square once you get it put together, because those pins will not let it go but in that one location. So the next step, I'm assuming I'm going to need 16 more of those bolts. So go ahead and grab me out some more, and this is going to be what holds the side rails on. And same situation here. I'm going to go ahead and start those with my hand and just make sure that they're not cross-threaded, and then I'll run them on down with my little power tool, because, guys, I don't know about you, but my hands cramp when I'm using those little Allen wrenches that come with most of these machines. So I just prefer to do it this way. That one's not wanting to start. There we go. Going over to the other end, even though I know that I could probably go ahead and run those down because these locating pins are not going to let my holes get misaligned. I'm going to go ahead and do it just to be sure. All right, so it looks like once I get all of those in, looks like I'm good to go to tighten them. I had one over here that I couldn't quite get with my hand to start it, so I'm gonna just gently start it with my DeWalt. Try to get it in there correctly. It's kind of up against the side of the little motor over here, so I'm gonna need an extension for that one. Ooh. Actually, it's up against the controller. It's right up alongside that controller. So I'm gonna need an extension to get in there to make sure I get that one good and snug. All right, actually I may use my extension for all of them, keep from getting on that rail. All right, so now that I got those on the perimeter here, I got those snugged down. I'm gonna go back and hit these on the spoil board before we forget about them. All right, so I went around them with that. I'm gonna go back around it with a regular mechanical screwdriver just to make sure I got everything tight. because I don't want anything loose that could be causing me problems later. The DeWalt usually does a good job. Those I'm pretty sure are tight enough. All right, so all the main connection points are nice and snug. All right, so moving right along, guys. It's showing that the next step, we're going to need the X-axis 8 M15 by 18s, and of course a wrench. So the M15 by M5 by 18s are going to be these little smaller screws that are right here. They're just slightly shorter than the 20s that hold the rest of the frame together. Let me get them out of here. It's a little tight fit for my fingers in there. I probably should have just brought me a magnet over here. So I got those guys out. All right, so now what we've got to do is we've got to take and sit the axis on top of the two sides there, and it has this slot that sits on top of that little slot there. So that's going to make sure we get it in the right spot. That's actually rather easy. Then we've got a total of 8 screws that go in there, it says. So let me get over here and get these in. Be using the outside holes. It does have 3 holes on each side through the top piece. Looks like maybe it's the same brackets they used on the bottom that has the holes for the locating pins, but the top does not use the locating pins. So that could be a little confusing if you're not paying attention. But I think it's because these brackets and the ones at the bottom are probably the same part. They've just used it in a different application here. So, got 1 extra screw. It seems that they've included some extra screws in case you get a bad one. All right, I'm gonna go around these with my screwdriver just to make sure. All right, guys, moving on to step 5. Gonna be needing the Z-axis. 4 M5 by 16s, which are going to be these here, and it says there are 5 of them in there. So I mean, I've got an extra one of those as well in case we get a dud. I like the fact that they included extras, because you never know when one of these may have a bad spot on the thread or something. All right, I'm also going to need a 3mm wrench. I'm going to go ahead and just pull one of my screwdrivers out, as well as the ER11 4mm collet and a wrench. So locate the collet in here. Well, here is a, I've got another 0 probe too. So collet, here we go. They're in little boxes. ER11 there. So there's the collet that goes in here to help hold the bits in. I guess they just want you to put that in there before you put it together, make it a little easier. So it says I'm going to need the wrench as well. Doesn't say which wrench, but there's only 2 of them. Probably will need both of them before it's all said and done. So I've got that in there. It says to insert the screws to the corresponding holes, and it is, the illustration is showing it's the second hole from the top. So that's going to be a problem with that gantry sitting like the axis the way it is. So I'm going to move that down a little bit. This machine does actually have the manual screws, so that like this situation where it's not under power, you can actually move the axis without having to plug it up or move anything. That's handy, especially at this point where I'm trying to get these screws in and it was kind of in my way. So like right there, I've got it kind of in the way a little so I can slide it down. So got the 4 screws in. I'm guessing they wanted you to do that because it would be easier to hold them maybe. So looks like I've just got to line these 4 up with the gantry, but I think I've got them in the wrong holes. Hang on. These 2 need to be in the bottom. I don't think I'm going to be able to hold all these in, so I'm going to wind up probably having to do these one at a time. All right, I'm going to use this little side handle Allen wrench just to make sure I get them tight. My little screwdriver's cheap, and the handle sometimes slips on that smaller one. Need to buy a better set. All right, so that part is over. Now it says I'm going to need a Z-axis cable mount, which is a small piece of metal, and 2 M3x8s, and I'm guessing that's going to be these little tiny screws, but we're just going to double check. M3x8s, yes, and I have one extra one of those as well. All right, and they did include a screwdriver. I laid it over here somewhere, so I used their screwdriver that they included. And we've got to take this guy, and it looks like it's got some pre-drilled holes up near the module, and this is going to go behind there, upside down like this with 2 screws in it. So let's move over there and get that done. All right, 7 is to secure the machine to your workbench or table, which is optional. They do include some screws for that. So they have some M6 screws. I'm not going to be doing that today because I'm just doing some testing. I'm not going to be doing anything heavy. I am going to try to get me a table built specifically for this machine. So if anything, I'll just be clamping it down somehow, or maybe just running some screws into my tabletop to hold it temporarily. But for now, we're just going to let that sit. So, all right. So now we got to take and secure all the cables to where they're supposed to be. This does show using some bolts to attach it to the table, but I'm not really sure. I'm guessing the ones, the 4 that it has with the wing nuts, with the Phillips heads, are going to be the ones that go down in there. So, but we're skipping that part and just going straight on to the next step here. It shows you how to change out the spindle if you want to. Skipping around. All right, part 3, wiring. So now we've got to run the wiring to all of the parts of the machine. And looks like there's no big surprises here, so let me just get around here. Should be the same as most of the lasers I've worked on. So I've got a stepper motor on this side that's got to be connected. Looks like the same exact plugs as what I'm accustomed to, so that shouldn't be a significant task. Got that one. All right. On this end over here, you've got a pigtail that comes down in the back that basically plugs into the wire that's ran through the back rail here. So I've got to plug that together so that it'll power the stepper on the other side. The one for this side is already wired in and plugged into the controller, so we're good on that part. This little pigtail here with this large plug, it's got a place on the back of this kind of hub back here on the gantry that it plugs into. This guy, you've got the 2 wires. These are the 2 wires for the rotor, and you're going to have one goes on that side. That one's marked positive, and this one's marked negative. So I've got those 2 on there, and then here you've got 2 different size plugs. So this is going to be for the stepper plug, and you're going to plug this guy in here. So the limit switch plug is kind of hidden, so I'm going to have to come around here. It kind of snaps in right there behind, right up underneath the stepper. So you kind of gotta be looking for that guy, or you'll miss it. So it's got a place for a zip tie here, and then of course back here on the back. So I'm gonna go ahead and add these zip ties to keep the pressure off of the wiring here. Apparently they expect me to mess up some limit switches. Got 2 extras. I'm gonna leave plenty of slack in this. Let me move this stepper wire to where I can get these guys together. All right, so I'm guessing that that's going to conclude the main install, guys. So I've got my cable management. It looks pretty good. They're showing a couple more cable ties in places. But I'm going to go over that real quick and just make sure, yes, a lot of the cable ties came from the factory, so I'm not having to do a whole lot with those. Most of the wire on the gantry here is already secured, and it looks good to me. So I think we're done with that part, guys. I kind of got a little confused when I was opening the boxes earlier because I couldn't see through the plastic, guys. This is actually going to be their offline controller for the machine. You can see why when I saw it, I thought that it was a probe, but it's not. It's the offline controller. It just has a really big silvery knob on it. So they did ask me if they could send it with the machine, so we'll play around with that and see if I can get it to work first using the controller, just to make sure I got everything plugged in properly, and then I'll move over to actually connecting it to the computer and doing everything there. So the offline controller plugs straight into the main motherboard controller here, and we'll set this to the side. And then you've got the brick USB cable, and then I've got 2 of these, and I see the difference now. One has the wide and thin pins on them, and the other one is just 2 thins. So since I have the ability to use the wide to keep my polarity correct, I will be going with that. So simple as to be expected, just plugs into the controller, and we'll plug this up into the extension cord. And the power connection is on the side. It's 24 volts DC, it says. So that's something typical of what I'm used to operating with. I'm gonna go ahead and get the USB cable ready, but we're not gonna connect it to the computer just yet. I want to see if I can make this thing move, make sure I've got everything put together. So I've got everything plugged in back there. Everything looks good. Looks like everything's ready to go, guys. So let's cross our fingers and see what happens when we power this guy up. Keep in mind, this is my very first time powering up any CNC. All right, total noob here, guys. So power button's right here on the end, and I've got an e-stop button up top. So let's see what happens when we hit the power button. All right, I'm getting a checklist. Oh, I don't have a card in it, and it's giving me the no card error. So let me go ahead and see where the card would be. That's a card reader with a card in it. So I'm guessing that it was in the box with it. 1 gigabyte micro SD card. So we're going to stick this in here and see if it likes it better now. All right, it's showing that I've got an SD card in it. Prepare, setting, alarm status. So I guess we're working. Okay, the controller is not touchscreen. So you do have to, it's a twist and then select controller. So I'm going to try to move it, from what I can tell, to the right a little bit. How about homing? Okay. Because there's a blue light that flashes when it tries to home, and I'm guessing it's saying that it's homed. So see if I can move the Z-axis. I'm going to have to study up on this controller, apparently, guys. I'm not getting anything right. All right, guys, so I'm going to start off playing with a piece of scrap plywood here. So I'm going to go ahead and put the material up here so I can go ahead and set this since we've already started, and then I'll secure the material in a minute. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the probe button, and it should go down until it touches or gets close to touching, and then come back up. If this probe works the way I've been advised, it works. All right, so that should be set as far as the probe goes there. So I guess we're good. All right, guys, after a little training, I have figured out the Genmitsu controller, the offline controller. It works very similar to what I'm used to with a lot of the lasers. The only exception is once you get your material bolted down or held down in the workspace, you kind of have to go with more of absolute coordinates. So, but you have to vary and basically you reset where your 0, 0 is using the controller, because it assumes that the file is going to be bottom left corner 0, 0 every time. So I've done, the machine came with a couple of offline files for testing. I did the Sainsmart file, and I just did the one that they've got on there as the wheel. So I've got a couple more files on here, so I figured I'd go through here and figure out what the next one is. The next one, it's just labeled O. I'm not sure what this file is exactly, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move the machine over, get it away from those two files that I've already burned or cut, and we'll go from there as far as getting it to engrave. So I'm gonna move over to the right of that wheel right there. And keep in mind, wherever I stop at, that's what it's going to be considering to be the 0, 0. So I'm going to go ahead and, this one, the file name is 0. So I'm not sure what this is. We'll find out together. I don't know how big this file is, so that is also a concern I have. Is I don't want it to hit any of the metal. All right, guys, so I got it together. It works. I have kind of figured out how to use the offline controller for files that are already on an SD card, which is possible that that may be the way that I run the machine, because in order to be able to position the artwork and stuff like that, that's pretty easy. So who knows? Next step is going to be to try to figure out the software, get the machine hooked to the software and operate it just like I do with my lasers, using the software that it's intended to run the machine. But here's some of the engraving that I got off of it with the designs that were on the card. This is where I had to stop it because I didn't allow enough room for it to make this wheel here. But it's doing decent. I mean, these little bits that are with it are kind of like one size fits all, I guess, bits. I'm sure there's a lot more complex designs and a lot better work that it's capable of with different bits. I also plan to add the DeWalt router to it eventually, but I figured I'd learn the machine, use the module that comes with it in case, in case there's any problems where I run it aground or do something to it that I shouldn't. If I do break this spindle, then I'm not out as much money as I would be, say, on the DeWalt. So I'm going to wait until I get the hang of this thing before I go to upgrade into the DeWalt. Once I figure out the software and figure out all the bells and whistles and ins and outs, then I plan to swap it over to the DeWalt router. Now, I do have the dust collection shoe coming for this machine. I ordered it on Amazon. Hopefully it'll be here in the next few days. So as I'm learning the software and start doing more, I'll be able to hook up the shop vac to it to keep the dust off and keep it running clean, or either just pipe it into my dust evacuation system that I use for my saws. But all in all, guys, I had been really looking into getting a CNC to play around with and see if it was something that I could do. But the price tag on a lot of the big CNCs just kind of scared me off. But then when Sainsmart reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to try this guy out, it was a no-brainer. All right, guys, so that's going to wrap it up for today. Like I said, there'll be more videos coming with this machine as I learn it. I'm going to try to get the software part done, maybe tomorrow, play around with it, get it on the software, because I really want to do an actual project with it. But seeing as I've only had this machine in my possession for about 5 hours now, I think I'm doing pretty good. So total noob. All I did, guys, was I did a little bit of research on YouTube. I put the thing together and figured out how to work it. So obviously, for those guys like myself that's wanting to get into it without breaking the bank, it obviously helps you figure things out a lot cheaper than if you was to go out and buy one of the bigger machines. And I'm anxious to see what kind of projects I can turn out with this thing. But that's going to wrap it up for today, guys. I'll do some more videos with the software as well as the 4th axis, and then, of course, the upgrades to the DeWalt when it comes in. But stay tuned for that. And if you hadn't already, guys, hit that subscribe button down below. You never know what's going to show up in the shop here. Any kind of tools for woodworking or any kind of project tools, they're liable to show up. So until next time, guys, be safe. Have a good day.